Welcome to another episode of WAHNcast, where we celebrate the voices, leadership, and impact of incredible women in the affordable housing industry. Today, we have a very special guest, someone whose influence and leadership have shaped not just companies, but the entire industry itself. Babbie Jaco is a force. She started as a secretary in a small firm and grew it into a powerhouse, expanding from just 3 employees to over 550. She has navigated the complexities of affordable housing with heart, vision, and a commitment to ethical leadership. Her career is built on what she calls heart work, and she led with the philosophy of flying by Buick, a hands-on, all-in approach to making a real difference. Beyond the numbers in the success story, Babbie is known for the way she invests in people. She's a mentor, a leader, and someone whose wisdom you'll want to take notes on. Today, she shares insights on leadership, lessons from her career, and even what retirement has taught her. Because trust me, she's not slowing down anytime soon. We're so grateful part of Babbie's new retirement plan includes helping WAHN expand our mission. Get ready for an inspiring conversation filled with laughter, lessons, and a lifetime of knowledge. Babbie Jaco, I have been counting down the days to spend this time with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. I'm looking forward to it also. You have so much energy. I'm looking forward to this.
This goes both ways, right? People are like, uh-oh. We've been talking a lot, and we're so excited that you've jumped onto our sponsorship committee during your retirement when you're supposed to be cutting back a little bit. But you mentioned several times that when you say I retired, it still feels really strange. What has surprised you most about this new chapter in your life, and what do you miss most about work?
What surprises me, honestly, the most is because I had a retirement business plan that I wrote. It had everything in it. What all Jeff and I were going to do, creating purpose in my next chapter of life. I had read all of the books of From Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks, Necessary Endings by Dr. Henry Cloud. I just read them all in preparation. So I did what I did. I wrote a business plan. I said, I'm going to improve these skills, including getting back on my piano bench and brushing up my music and spending time with my 9 friends. I had it month by month. I have a book on travel. I had it all lined down. My retirement date was January 1. December 20th, my 92-year-old mother moved into our home. Not just our home, but on the only ground floor bedroom, which is our bedroom. So we're upstairs where the grandchildren come to visit. And in all honesty, their mama couldn't live alone anymore. So she's been here since. And being honest, I've been pretty disappointed in retirement so far. I'm a butler right now. I've gone from making big decisions every day, multimillion-dollar decisions, just like that, to, okay, Mom, here's your coffee. And yes, I've put your sugar in it. But at the same time, y'all, it's that part of life. And it's a season of life. As I look at it, I know that I'm in the right place at the right time and that I won't have regrets and that I'm meant to be here right now. So the big retirement plan is on hold. And I'm sure that I'm learning valuable lessons of patience and slowing things down. But what I miss the most are the people. I've worked with the same team, most of them 30, even 40 years. They're my friends. That's what we do. And it's kind of like breaking up. And I feel grief. I feel a little grief. So I'm really happy when somebody reaches out like you did and says, well, can you help us do this? And then I pick up the phone and I call and say, can y'all sponsor? That's all fun. So surprises and learning to just be agile and pivot. And that's what I'm doing now.
We are grateful that you said yes and you answered the call. And one of our most exciting things is the women that are going into retirement, because I think, like you said, in this industry, especially, that mission work is hard to leave. But then there's a real friendship in this industry across the country that you would miss. So I do have a question there. Did Jeff know about your plan, or were you going to spring that on him? Like, is he?
Well, he did, but Jeff is my balancer.
Yeah, okay.
His personality is, he's an engineer and he's level all the time. But he
Yes.
retired on the same day.
Oh, how cool. Congrats.
And he was 40 years at his career at his company as
Wow.
well. So he's kind of gone back to work. But it's okay.
I know it's a very hard time. I feel like whether you're a new parent and you leave that, you finally get to this stage of life and then you become the adult figure all over with parents. But I do think at the end of the day, first of all, your mom's extremely lucky to have you, but it's special time. So that's
I think so.
good. With all the twists and turns and unplanned, and no matter what you plan, you started with 3 employees and you grew your company to 550. What are some of the most pivotal moments that shaped this growth? And what are some leadership principles that guided you through those big transitions?
Well, when I started, it was 1984, and I was the third employee hired. It was Ken Wheat, an accountant, myself, and I was the secretary. We were managing rural development properties that Mr. Boyd had developed. And it wasn't until the early 90s that I became an owner. They gave me ownership along with my partner, Joe Wachewski. And at that time, I really didn't understand the difference of what it feels like to own something. But I would say that what really made our growth happen were the tax reforms of 86. And when the low-income housing tax credit program came, that turned housing completely around. And everything went from the investor getting accelerated depreciation and us pushing that to those private partnership of that raising of those dollars and the complexity of it. And those mom and pops, we were a rural housing company. And so a lot of us in the industry were mom and pops. And they didn't have the infrastructure. And we had a perfect compliance record, a great reputation. And they came to us. And instead of just managing their properties, we bought them. We just would say, well, let us buy you out. One of them said, you know, those little brown envelopes that comes from the government, you don't want to get anymore.
Yeah.
We can take those off your hands. So we started just buying the general partner part of the partnership. We didn't have any money. At that time, gosh, Mr. Boyd was starting to age, and we went downstairs and asked for money, and he tore up that piece of paper and threw it back at us and said, y'all want to go do this? Y'all go do it. I'm not going to give you my money. That was the first time we formed WWJ, Ken Wheat, Joe Wachewski, and Babbie Jaco. And we went out and borrowed $1 million. Now, we're all poor. We got kids in daycare. We don't have any money. Ken was a little stronger, so we used his balance sheet and we bought a company. And from there, we got another one and got another one. And well, one day we're in North Carolina taking over a group of properties and see a little map of Georgia, and there's 70 dots on that map, and it was for sale. And they said, well, we're having trouble finding somebody who wants it. It's all rural development. Well, we love rural development. So we're development finance. So we go back to the hotel. The bar is closed, but we sat in the bar and we wrote an offer on a cocktail napkin. And we went back, and 2 weeks later, we were the proud owners of 70 properties all over the state of Georgia.
That you've never seen.
Never seen, but we knew that these properties were rural development. Yeah. We knew that program inside and out. So we knew what we could do with them. We had enough metrics on those properties. We knew that the developer was solid. It was north-south out of Savannah, Bill Johnson. Yep. Excellent. And he just was a terrific partner. And he wanted those little brown envelopes to go away. So that was just an incredible ride. If you think about it, we really had just started with email.
Yeah.
The properties didn't have computers. We used fax machines.
Right.
Yeah. Productivity was different. And we were based in North Carolina. And then that took us into Georgia, where Ken Wheat was from. He grew up in Milledgeville. But once we blazed in, there was so much of a need that there were boom, 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 right on the top of that. Other general partners who were going into the straight tax credit world.
Yep.
And they didn't want to deal with the rural development world anymore. And we had both. So we bought theirs. When I retired, we were managing, I would guess, 380 apartment communities, over 16,000 units. with another queued up, another at least 3,000 more coming on board. And that growth, we just grabbed that growth as it happened. None of us ever said, let's do a strategic retirement plan, right? We didn't have a plan. We just said, we knew we could work hard enough. We just knew that that was what we knew was hard work. And we stuck to what we knew best. I think another key, Ashley, is we stayed within our geographical footprint. I get calls all the time. There'll be calls that say, can you manage our property in Minnesota? Are you kidding? No. We had a motto was, we fly by Buick.
I love that. Right down 85, right?
You're losing money if you get on an airplane. Now, that's not true for companies that do, 600 unit properties in Arizona. Maybe that makes sense.
Right.
But for rural development, our average property is 40 units, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And
yeah.
we have lots and lots of those 40 units. And how did we do it well? We did it well by having this amazing concentration of properties in the same geographical footprint. Here in South Carolina, for example, we had one little town called Clinton. We'd have 7 properties in that town. So we would have the best job anywhere for that site manager, for that maintenance tech. And then 10 minutes away in Newberry, there's 3 more properties. And 15 minutes away in Union, there was another 6. So the map was just solidly filled in. Every 10 minutes, there's a stop for a regional manager.
And that's such a really neat concept that you're saying. Like, it might be small on the grand scheme of the map, but in that smaller town, that's a huge opportunity for many reasons: housing, jobs. I can feel your heart in these projects. I love it. I know you've talked about it before, the concept of heart work, and that has been central to your leadership philosophy too. Can you share a moment where you saw this approach make a real difference in employees or a resident's life? Because I know if you fly by Buick, you got to know your residents and your employees.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. I've got to give credit where it's due. With heart work, I first heard that term from my industry network friend, Dr. Debbie Phillips.
Okay, I've heard about Dr. Debbie.
Oh, and I learned about her from another friend, just like Juan, right? A friend tells a friend.
Yes.
First of all, we were absolutely on the same scale of energy, right? I just was so drawn to her. And I asked her to come speak to our regional managers at one of our company conferences. And she called what we did heart work. And it really stuck. And now I'm kind of seeing it everywhere. The heart work is there, but I've thought about all the thousands of residents that we've impacted, all of the importance of affordable housing. And Katie Gore talks about it better than anyone when she talks about, being a homeless teenager or being poor. And I've been poor, but I've never been homeless. With the hard work and action, for me as a company leader, I felt it most in our employees. And I was cleaning out my desk at retirement, and I came across a note that I'd kept forever. And it was a young manager. She's so beautiful with red hair. And she was in a little town of Alabama and managing a senior housing, which was 55 and older, housing for older persons. It's a different set aside. It's not elderly. It's housing for older persons. So she's managing that. And she sent a resignation in at some point. Her name was Haley. And she was struggling with the fact that she loved her job and these 3 young girls that she had at home and wanted to be a full-time mother. So I read over her letter as I was leaving my office. And she just said in her letter, she goes, after a lot of thought and a lot of heart-wrenching, I've made the difficult decision to leave the job that I love and stay home with my children. But in her letter, she did not thank me for a promotion. She didn't thank me for a bonus, which we gave bonuses every year at year end, no matter who you were or what you did. What she thanked me for was so simple, but yet has such meaning. She reminded me of the day she met me and that I came whizzing into her office.
Not you.
By Buick, right?
Yeah.
And she was scared to death that there I was. And I had taught her something that was so meaningful. I said, I'm going to teach you something today, Haley. I want you to stand up. I want you to smile. I'm going to teach you how to greet. And she said that I taught her to stand up, smile, look that person in the eye, and shake their hand properly. Because she was giving me that little, oh, let me hold your finger deal.
Yes.
And once I taught her to do it, and I made her practice it. And then
that makes perfect, right?
Yeah, I called her back. A couple of weeks later and said, hey, Haley, how's it going? And she goes, I'm practicing. Every time somebody walks in my office, I stand up. And then I had her mystery shop. And she did great. And the mystery shopper commented about what a great reception that they got, when they walked into mystery shop. And that letter let me know that while I might have been buzzing through hurry up, flying in my Buick, property looks great, but da-da-da. Let me teach you how to stand up and shake a hand. I think that little moments like that, those teaching moments that we do are heart moments. And it's because we care. We want our people to be successful. Somebody invested in me, taught me how to shake that hand and not do that little wiggly thing with your hand. And so I find myself now more in the heart role of a teacher because I hope that people can avoid some of the mistakes that I made. And for me, that's my hard work.
What you said is so true. Like the money, the bonuses, all that. You basically handed her the gift of, even if you don't feel it that day, you're confident. Welcome to my office. Here's a hard handshake. You know what I mean? And that you remember for the rest of your life in all situations, not just work. So that is amazing. Yeah. And this is a great lead into the fact that the industry has such high turnover, right? In property management. Mm-hmm. Your company, though, consistently maintained a low rate of turnover. And now we're hearing a little bit of why. What are some of the practical things you did to create a workplace where people wanted to stay and wanted to grow and wrote notes like that you kept in your desk? I hope Haley's listening until the day you retired.
Yeah, I did. Those statistics, and I love to brag, okay? So one of those is we consistently kept 26 and less. I think our highest year, might have been like 32 ever.
Yeah, I mean, the industry averages
over 50.
Yeah, 50. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
It's a lot of stress. I mean, when you're in housing, you're in the middle of everything in people's lives.
Yes.
I mean, and your managers, they see everything. Your maintenance men see things people shouldn't have to see. Mm-hmm. And it's stressful. Some of the things that if I look back at it, I didn't think about it at the time, but I really believe that our simplicity helped. For example, I call our income producers. Ken always taught me that the most important people in the whole company were your site employees. That receptionist and your site employee, they're the most important. And we had to make their jobs easy. And I hear about other company where, say, regional managers are doing reports all the time. Why do I need them to pull reports that I can pull? I can go ahead and put in the metrics. And I can see right now if there's rent uncollected. I don't need you to pull those reports for me. We kept it really simple. And we didn't bury our regionals in any kind of required paperwork. We wanted to know where they were going, what they were focused on, and kept a lot of if it wasn't absolutely necessary for them to solve problems, because we really wanted them 4 days a week. They're boots on the ground on the properties, inspecting. And when you're inspecting, you're training, right?
Yeah.
Walk in, shake a hand. Can you shake? Oh, let's do it,
Right.
It goes back to being on those properties. The regional managers for us have never been more than 2 hours from any property in their portfolio.
Okay.
We had a few in Alabama because they came with a client that were further away, but it wasn't that hard because we managed them from the edge of Georgia. Right. But in general, a portfolio of 25 properties, and people say, you got 25 properties on your regional managers? Well, one town has 7 properties. So that's 2 site managers, 2 maintenance technicians spread across those. And also we provided regional managers, have always provided them with company cars.
Is it a Buick?
They were Buicks until Buick quit making the model that we loved. It kept people from rationing their travel.
Yep.
When gas went out, other roofs, They were not rationing the gas. They didn't have to worry about, well, if I go terminate that manager or maintenance, I got to go travel there every day right now. That decision was not part of the travel decision. The cost to travel was on us always.
Sure.
And mileage just doesn't do the same. And you might have seen some of my posts when I was bragging. I had my friends calling me from the industry. One of them over in Alabama would call me and say, Babbie, quit posting those posts about your people getting new cars. A new company car, like the price is right. Hello.
No, you should. Like you said, you got to brag about that. That's a cool perk.
Yeah, well, and we wanted it to be a perk.
Yeah.
And we wanted it to be easy to go to your properties, just get in that car and go. Also, the whole culture of who you know is best before you go hire who you don't know. And all of our leadership was always hired internally and promoted. Now, maybe we over promoted from time to time, but we kind of knew it and we supplemented. I would have a regional manager who was a terrible writer, but really good in the field. So we just supplemented. You send that to me and let me help you edit it.
Yes.
And that regional manager that I'm thinking of consistently has the best occupancy, the best compliance reports, the best that happens on staff. But that manager can't write a memo well.
Right.
Okay, let me help you with that. I think the retention comes about because here it is. And I know I'm not on camera, but I'm holding up
I'll tell the people.
Book.
Okay, winning every day.
Winning every day.
Okay.
And it's inscribed to me personally because he recruited Ken Wheat. Ken was from Milledgeville, went to Georgia Military Prep School.
Okay.
Wanted to play football for Georgia and did not get recruited by Georgia. Okay. But he got recruited by Lou Holtz, who was a graduate assistant at USC here in Columbia under Paul Diesel. And so he recruited Ken. And I was never an athlete.
Okay.
I never got to be an athlete. I was so tiny. I got to be a synchronized swimmer in college.
That's
but
cool.
I
That's
never
pretty
got
athletic.
to be an athlete. So I never got all this coaching until Ken. I'll tell you, anytime I felt the need, I pulled this book out because it was the approach of being a champion. And it was the simple, inspirational approach to leading. And that leading and care, one of the chapters that Coach Lou talks about is, number one, can I trust you? And two, do you care for me? Goes back to that hard work.
Yeah.
If you're a leader and you don't know, being a leader is hard. People should pray for their leaders.
Let's have a moment of silence. We need to pray for all of our leaders. That is exactly right, Babbie.
Because it's not just your ministers and your presidents, but the leaders of your company, your regional managers. You wake up at night, you worry about things, and do you care? And do I trust you? And then are you committed to excellence? There was never a doubt that's what we stood for. And this is all part of the whole retention thing. Is we knew he cared.
Yeah. Which is all that really matters. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so special. And I love what you said that because you weren't part of, say, team athletics growing up, although synchronized swimming in college is pretty athletic. Just here to tell you. But I love that you said you didn't get coaching until you met Ken Wheat. And you give him a lot of credit for shaping your career as a mentor. You pull that together with the coaching and how important that is and why this book is so important to you. What is the most valuable lesson he taught you? And how does it influence the way you kind of coach and mentor others?
Well, I could joke around and he would think it was funny, but I had to learn from memory everything because he said, Babbie, you can't do this job. You should know what a square is. A square, a shingle square, 10 by 10, and exactly how much it should cost without anybody else. He taught me how to go to a property and pull the oil stick out and feel whether the oil was dirty or not. Even if I didn't know what I was doing, he wanted me to look like I knew I was doing. So I had all these cheat sheets taped to my desk over the years and he would do the math in his head, and it was always a challenge. But in all honesty, if I have to boil down what he taught me the most is the importance of ethics.
Yep.
And doing our best every day. And over the years, he wrote my children notes and he would write to my son, Will, do your best. And one day he was not, and he asked Will, did you do your best? And Will went, probably not. And he said, well, why would you not? We all had a healthy level of fear of Ken because we didn't want to disappoint. And that goes back to the fact that we knew he cared about us. If he was disappointed, he
even your children too, like obvious. Yeah.
Yeah. He never one time said he was disappointed. He just didn't look up.
Then you knew. You knew.
You walked in his office and he just didn't look up. You knew it. You felt that. I mean, he's a big, bulking guy. I'm 5 feet tall and 90 pounds,
Yeah.
We could not have been two of the most unlikely partners, right? In all seriousness, this industry will throw things at you. They will buy your loyalty. You will be offered lawn care at your home, pest control at your home. He made it clear that that was a firing offense. And to do so prevents you from being able to fire somebody you should be firing if you've taken a favor.
Sure.
And we were an accredited management organization through the Institute of Real Estate Management.
Okay.
Interesting. I teach ethics now. It's Ethics 800, and I'm teaching in May in South Carolina. If anybody needs that for their designation.
Yes, everybody, let's repeat that. Babbie is teaching ethics. So we'll make sure we put that out when we post this as well.
Yeah. It's Ethics 800 through IRM. But I think if it all boils down to that, Ken would say, treat the properties like you own them. Spend money like it's your money you're pulling out of your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just do that, you will always make the right decision.
You said earlier was your company thrived because of simplicity. That right there is such a strong statement that's really simple. If you treat others how you want to be treated on all fronts, the world is much easier, right? And that includes running a business, like you just said.
And it doesn't mean that you're not going to really mess up. You're not going to say things. Oh my God, the things I've done. Somebody said to me one day, she said, oh, Babbie, I saw her 30 years later because I remember everything you ever said to me. And I went, oh, please don't.
You're like, don't remind me.
No, I have no filter. I have no filter. So please, I'm so sorry or whatever.
But you care about people. So whatever was coming out came from a good place.
That's right. Or somebody will say, but you were yelling at me. No, I wasn't. I was just being intense.
Passionate. And you obviously... I wish people could see you right now. We say this all the time on WAHNcast, so I need to get this on video, but you can feel your passion for what you did. You can feel your passion for people's success, like your employees, so sometimes that passion comes out.
Sometimes, a little bit. And then when you get us all in the same room together, it was something else. But I have right now, I guess, the gift of looking back.
Sure.
When you're living in the middle of it, it's like, every little thing was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened.
Right. Now you can watch it like a TV show and you're like, it really was. It's okay. That works out.
And there's some advantages to becoming one of the vintage population. Now,
that's right.
Somebody called us legacy leaders.
That's very true. That's very true. I like vintage though.
Vintage, look back because you take a little minute and you realize that just like with my mom moving here when I was supposed to be traveling the 50 states, it's just a season in life.
And you just never know. You get this special time and then you'll have that special time. And you can't plan for it. You can't plan for it.
No, you can't.
So when you talk about all these big things and all the ethics and keeping employees happy, and how did y'all strike a balance between high performance and a people first culture? Your company maintained 98.5% economic occupancy rate.
All the time.
And you also led with compassion. So that feels like sometimes that would be one of those scales and one side goes up, the other side goes down. How'd y'all do it? What did you do?
I really, really wish we had that. All these fancy terminologies I've heard in the recent years, work-life balance. Whoever heard of such? For us, it was just all an extension of who we were. We come to work, we talk about home. Ken knew everything that was going on in my life. I knew everything going on in his life, and it was all mixed together. There was no separation, I think, though, when I look back at it, we probably hired a lot of people like we were.
Sure.
People who played basketball in college, who had high level of energy and competitiveness, people who wanted excellence. But at the end of the day, I think that we had healthy conflict. Not always. We had some immaturity growing up. But behind closed doors, we'd fuss, we'd rant. I'd pick up the phone and ask somebody. And I remember calling a little girl and bill manager in Willacoochee, Georgia. There is a town, Willacoochee, Georgia.
I was going to say, I've yet
all
to hear
these
that.
vacant units, and we had rental assistants, and they were for elderly. And I said, "Do you need me to come down there and rent those units for you?" Yeah. People say, "Listen, Babbie." Well, it really was. Well, sure enough, next week, those 4 vacant units were filled. So we focused on that. But even if we called somebody to really find out what was going on, such as that, and that we expected a lot of energy with high performing people, all kind of clashing. Dana Bull would call it, Dana, our new CEO with KHEC, he says that the management side of this business has been such an eye-opener for him. And Renee Sturgis, who I'd worked with for 17 years, from right out of college, she was a college athlete and has been in this role and coming right along beside me. He says we were like 2 racehorses in a paddock. And we just, and then every now and then we'd collide, and we would all have this conflict and this, but why? And we would get it all out. There was I guess we didn't have healthy boundaries in a way. We would all just put it all out there to each other.
And that's what I was going to say. You call it unhealthy boundaries, which I think it could be, except for y'all all had the best interests of each other at heart. And the trust level to be able to do that is phenomenal.
Well, and the trust level was when we walked out of those closed doors, it wasn't
there. That's exactly right.
It stayed there. And somebody at the end of the day had to make a decision. This is not a democracy. It's a dictatorship at the end of the day, right? So somebody has to make it. But we always also felt like the term winning, Lou Holtz's winning, was not really about perfection. It was just that, was it better than it was yesterday?
Yep.
If we're winning, did we do something better today that we did yesterday? It really wasn't like, we didn't set these big fancy goals we didn't even go 6 months out.
Which is why you wrote up a whole entire retirement plan, because you're like, I haven't ever had one. I'm going to do this now. I love this story, though, of the company and hearing you talk about them. And there's obviously a very deep connection, friendship with you all, trust, and the company culture just it has to be amazing. So then selling this company to KHEC had to be a difficult decision. What gives you the confidence now, even because it's still fresh, that they're going to carry forward the culture and values that you all work so hard to build?
Oh, that was painful. Ken is 11 or 12 years older than I am.
Okay.
Joe is older than I, not much. And we were WWJ. So by this time, we had already been doing business with KHEC 15 years. We bought all these things and we looked around going, what the heck are we going to do with all these properties? I mean, we got to renovate them. We got to reset them. They're going to fall apart. Yeah. And when we came up with this crazy idea, now this gets off track a little bit, but it's important that we would package 25 of these apartment communities, separate deals with all different investors, throw them together. We partnered with Greystone, Tanya Eastwood, and she and Joe and Ken and myself, we all figured out how we could refinance them, crunch all of this complex stuff into renovating in place.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Units a day, total rehab with the tenants in place.
Yeah.
And we did that on 8 portfolios. And Tanya told me to the tune of $550 million before we finished.
Wow.
So Ken started looking at all of this and we knew we needed an exit strategy.
Okay.
He wanted to leave his family. None of our families worked in the business. And we set it up that way. We didn't want our children to come in. I was probably the less skeptic of my partners. I was not ready. I was younger. I see the value now looking back. And I'm glad. And when it came to KHEC, our cultures were similar. We were all both regional. Our footprints were on top of each other. We were the Southeast. They were the Southeast. We were in the same business. We knew their asset managers. We knew Dana. We knew the fact that their asset managers really came out to the properties and they cared about it. They were just nice people. When Dana wanted to expand their business line, we made sense. And it was scary. And there was a lot of changes. For me, I would say the first moments of it were a lot of grief. And I discounted that because the partners had a lot of tension going into this and a lot of disagreement about how to do it. Everybody says, celebrate your retirement, celebrate your retirement. It's been more of a grief journey for me.
Yeah. Because you loved what you did.
Well, and I loved everybody, but I also loved Ken. And he walked out that door and I stayed behind. Okay. And I didn't read a book on that.
Yeah, you need to write one on this, Babbie.
I was so unprepared for that. And in fact, he drove off that night and it was New Year's Eve and we were at work and he drove off that night and it was dark outside and I'm just bawling. Yeah. And I called him and I said, after 35 years, you drove off?
Yeah.
And I just sobbed and sobbed. And he drove back. I didn't know he did, but I'm standing. I had a veranda desk. I'm standing up at my desk. And
just crying.
Oh. I hear something behind me. It's like 7 p.m. on New Year's Eve. And I turned around and there he was. He said, I had to come back and hug you. So he came back and hugged me. And I said, you smell like cigarettes. He hadn't smoked in 20 years.
Oh, that's so interesting.
He said, I had to.
Yes.
So, selling is hard when you build something. But the beauty of this is they already knew the properties. They knew us. We knew them. They weren't in the business. So this is not like another property management company buying us. So 100% of all the employees were hired. It wasn't like, oh, we already have an accounts payable department.
Right. Okay.
They're a whole different culture. I would tell Dana, y'all are MBAs working all the time on spreadsheets that all connect to each other. And we are blue collar workers. We cut grass, we fix your toilets, and we collect your rent. It is complex, but at the same time, we have to remember we're landlords. I think that the other things with them being a nonprofit corporation, and that's what they made us when they bought us. So now what was Boyd Management is KHEC Management, a separate nonprofit than KHEC in Raleigh. We were able to put money into things that were needed, desperately needed. Dana looked around and shook his head. God bless Dana, I always say that. He shook his head because he went, there's no leadership team here. Well, there wasn't. There was 3 people who made the decisions and mostly Ken. And we had 1 payroll person for all 500 employees.
Wow.
And she did everything. We didn't have an HR manager. We didn't need it.
Y'all were HR, yeah.
HR. We never did an employee evaluation review. We just didn't believe in them and didn't need them. So
I love that. Will you expand on that? Because I think that's so different.
Well, it actually is interesting. Harvard has a study on why they're harmful. And when they're done really well, and Dana does them very well himself. Okay. And I got one.
You must have gotten a good one.
I got one because Dana did it, but I always knew where I stood before. Kind of the 1-minute manager approach with, you know all the time, but they could be very harmful to our organization if not really done well for the right reasons. So there was just a lot of that. But Dana's been able to put some structure into what we had. We knew that with what we had at 14, 13, whatever 1,000 units we were at when he bought us, we were topped. I mean, we couldn't do any more without adding another layer. And when you add another layer, do you make more money? Well, with Dana's situation being a nonprofit, the profits that we took home have been put back. So now our health insurance, our 401k, oh my goodness. I mean, who ever heard of a 6% 401k match? Our employees can now afford family health insurance where we could not use it before.
Yeah.
We got lots more PTO where I wouldn't have dared ask Ken to wait. I heard forever about when I finally got Memorial Day on the calendar. I went to dare ask for all these other days. So we got a lot of, and you know what? The benefit of that is good. And I do like the benefit of some of the fresh ideas that have been brought to the table post buying us, which is that leadership team and the feedback from them. And oh Lord, the leadership retreats that we had, they were meaningful, but we worked hard at it and we did come away with real projects and real metrics. So the fresh ideas is good. Yeah. And we had times with these rehabs where we were ready to jump out of windows.
Sure.
We had millions of dollars at stake that, as Joe told a crowd one day at his retirement party, I had mortgaged my house. And this thing wouldn't close because there was one person at an agency who would not open the email. Oh my gosh, and all your whole deal is based on these things. And
right.
Dana, even if a deal fell off the cliff, KHEC stuck with us. They'll stick with it. They'll stick with this. And they do have that same caring philosophy. Are we going to agree? Am I going to agree with everything that he does? No. But it didn't with Ken and he didn't with me. And that's what makes it all beautiful. But I tell people, I look back and I went, what a ride. What a great ride.
I think so too, Babbie. When I'm listening to you, it's just, I think there's a lot of people, it's kind of like when you have straight hair, you want curly hair, right? And I'm like listening to you, I'm like, there's so many people that spend their whole life not doing something that sparks them for a living. And they're counting down the days to retirement. And in my opinion, that's always kind of like, I wish everyone could find their pivot to get the passion that you have for your job and to grieve when they get to retire. Like to grieve,
I agree.
But how lucky, right?
How lucky.
That's amazing. So looking back, what advice from your vintage perspective, I like this.
Like my vintage.
Would you give young professionals in the affordable housing industry, and particularly those who want to build a long and lasting impact like you have?
When I started, it was so different. We didn't even have a tenant landlord act. I mean, Ken helped write it for South Carolina.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And there were no women. I mean, my first Institute of Real Estate Management meeting, I was terrified. And I went up that big tower to that first meeting, and there was one woman in the room besides me.
Yeah.
So there's so many advantages, not just for women and young people and all that, but professional training.
Yes.
I didn't get that. Ken threw me the set of keys and said, go show this apartment. Well, when I did that, I got in the truck with the guy who brought his truck, and I took off with him in his truck. And when I got back, Ken said, you got in this truck? I said,
you're like, what was I supposed to do?
You said he was your friend. I said, Babbie, I was just saying that, but you got in this truck. Well, that was the training I got.
Yeah.
I got this training.
Like on the job, real training.
Threw me the keys and said, go show this apartment. Now these young people have got almost, it's like a water faucet they can't turn off training. They've got to disseminate real training. So my advice is to stick to the core. My husband told my daughter that when she entered the engineering field. You can't get a PE in biohazard engineering, but you can get a civil engineering degree. PE in that. So stick to the basics of property management. And that I would advise the Institute of Real Estate Management. You need to have your real estate license. First you're managing real estate.
Right.
Then the complexity of the affordable programs.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in the Institute of Real Estate Management, you're also adhering to an ethical standard. And those ethics is the reason Institute of Real Estate Management was even founded.
Yeah.
Was to police its own members' ethics. Wow. So I think that really looking at the credentials and valuing those will give them the best start. And then don't be afraid to pivot. Work for a company that fits your personality style. There's companies out there that do a great job, but they have a different personality style. If you love spreadsheets and that's your forte, go to one that wants you to do it.
Right, right.
It's not mine. I'm more results driven, and I don't care how you get there. Employment ought to be like a good marriage. And I've been married since 83. And he was my high school sweetheart.
Congratulations.
So it needs to be like a good marriage. Mm-hmm. And then maybe you'll be as lucky as I am and have this career, a good husband, and 9 grandchildren.
Look at you. So that's and your mom.
A vintage. But yeah, that's what I would advise them. And that if they ever work for somebody that does something that's just not ethical, you have to leave. You have to do something different.
That's right. Babbie, this was amazing spending time with you. I am so honored to release this during Women's History Month because I do think you have gone down in history in our industry. You're a mentor and idol to so many people. And I personally am very glad that your rewritten retirement plan includes WAHN. So thank you so much for all you're doing.
Oh, thank you for asking me. And I look forward to seeing everybody in Denver in May. I've never been, and I'm so excited.
It's going to be so much fun. Thank you so much, Babbie, and have a great afternoon.
See you later.
Bye. Bye.